A story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So advanced means go higher. Advanced creative writing, that's what it means, going beyond beginning, middle, and end. It involves using more complex techniques to engage readers. It also helps young writers to go deeper in order to get a better understanding of and use of literary techniques, imagination, and expressive writing. And this advanced creative writing is typically for children from the ages of 7 to 11. They are young writers, 7 to 11. What is the objective of creative writing, advanced creative writing, and creative writing generally? It helps the child develop confidence in self-expression. It builds stamina and fluency in writing. It cultivates imagination and empathy. It fosters a love for storytelling and literature. You know, like we have Chimamanda Adichie, we have Wole Soyinka. This was where they started. I'm sure I've told you that before. This was how it started. It develops a child's self-expression. The child will be able to express him or herself confidently. It builds stamina. They will be able to stay and write something that makes sense, and it will be fluent. And then their imagination runs wild. They can imagine all sorts. Remember, creative writing is your own writing. You want it to end the way you like, not the way it's supposed to. And then it fosters a love for storytelling. It fosters a love for storytelling. Now, before we go into our lesson, I just want to tell you a short story. It was a very windy day. The trees were clapping their hands. Baba Gbero was in the market selling his wares. The trees were hovering from side to side. And all of a sudden, they heard the sound of thunder, boom! And Baba Gbero and everybody in the market ran off. They ran as fast as a lightning. Baba Gbero is a short man with a bald head and brown eyes and a very stocky shape. He lives with his family, his wife and his 2 children. Baba Gbero ran into his home. His home was a brown mud house with thatched roof. He ran into his house and slammed the door, boom! And he was trembling. His hands were shaking. He was perspirating. His heart was panting. He was afraid. And in came Mama Gbero. Baba Gbero, what's going on? Mama Gbero was a beautiful, fair in complexion lady with long, thick black hair and light brown eyes. Now, what I just did was just describing what happened. I talked about the scene. I described Baba Gbero in details. I described Mama Gbero in details. Now, that is advanced creative writing. I used simile, I used metaphor. I said he ran as fast as flash. I used onomatopoeia. I said if thunder went boom. So those are the things we talked about last week. Those are literary languages, your simile, your onomatopoeia, your metaphor, hyperbole, so those are the things that we talked about last week. So what are the features of a creative writing? What are the features of the creative writing? In advanced creative writing, sorry, I'm sure that story came alive to you. It's not just the ordinary beginning, middle, and end. So now, features of an advanced creative writing. In an advanced creative writing script, you would likely find use of simile, this we discussed last week, metaphor, personification, and so on. This will help the reader visualize the story, just like I did now. It will be as if you were in the place where the story was happening. Detailed character development, descriptive sensory details, structured plots with challenges and solution, strong openings and endings. genre awareness, themes, and messages. Now, like I said, we talked about the use of simile, metaphor, these literary languages last week. So today we'll be looking at detailed character development and descriptive sensory details. What is character development? This is creating characters that feel real, unique, and memorable by giving clear traits. This goes beyond saying Jane is a nice girl or Jane is nice. That doesn't say anything. That is flat. It does not say much. I described Baba Gbero to you. I said he was a short, stocky man with a pot belly, with a bald head. I told you where he lived. I told you about his wife. I told you about that he had 2 children. So I talked about his family. I talked about his occupation. I talked about his home. I just cut it short, so I don't go into too much detail. That is what character development is. That is what character development is. Now, if you look at this chart here, it's talking about character profile. It said, what does your character do to show her personality? What does your character look like on the outside? What does your character say to show her personality? How does your character change or write a lesson? What lesson does your character or has your character learned? This is how you develop a character. This is how you develop a character. So this is what character development is. It's not just saying, oh, Jane is a nice girl. Now, also in character development, you can't just, spring it on the children. You must have read stories upon stories of books that have developed characters. You cannot spring anything on children. Also, whatever you are teaching must be age appropriate. Always remember that. It must be age appropriate. I can't bring something I'm going to teach year 6 and I give it to year 3. They may have an issue with doing the work. Now look at this one. Emma the chef. Hi, my name is Tina. I am 10 years old. My sister, Emma is my sister. She's working as a chef in a restaurant near our home. She likes to bake cookies for me. She likes cakes. I love cookies and ice cream. Every weekend I go to the restaurant with Emma. This is just the beginning of the story. She has described herself. She talks about her sister. She talked about her old hobbies. She talked about where they love to go on weekends. This is how you develop a character. The children must have come across things like this over and over before you tell them to write something like this. And when you are doing creative writing, always remember you have to do a sketch first in your scrapbook. If you remember, you do it out first before the children will now have the big write. You don't have to finish the story in one. You can focus on character development before you move into another topic. Now, what are the techniques you can use to teach advanced creative writing in character development? Now look at this story again. This is another one. Hello, my name is Peter. I am 9 years old. I live in a big house with my mom, my dad, and my older sister. I have got a dog too. I like listening to music. I love sports too. I go to the swimming pool on Tuesdays and Friday. My sister's name is Anna. She's 11 years old. She likes reading and playing basketball. She can play basketball very well. We live in a small town. There is a park next to my house. I go to the park at weekends to play with my friends. Now, this boy has talked about his age. Now, let's look at the character development. You have to teach the children to create characters. How? Talk about their name, age, family, friends, if possible. That's what Peter has done. He has talked about his age. He talked about his family. He talked about going to the pool. He loves sports. He has talked about his sister playing basketball. He has talked about him going to the park at weekends to play with his friends. He has developed his character. Another way you can help the children is they should talk about their appearance, the height, the hair color, that would be for white people. Clothes, I put that because you don't know where you could be anywhere in the country or outside the country. Typically Nigerians or Africans, we have black hair. Some people have brown hair, but most of us have black hair. So you talk about their appearance, their clothes, any distinctive features. I talked about Babagbero's height. I talked about the color of his eyes. I told you he had bald hair. I talked about Yagbero had thick black hair. She had light brown eyes. She was fair in complexion and she was beautiful. Probably Babagbero has tribal marks, so you look out for distinctive features like that. Then personality traits can be brave, mean, shy, nice. I could have said, oh, Baba Gbero got home and Yagbero was worried about him. And he shouted at Yagbero, Baba Gbero is a mean man. He has always been mean. He's not loving to his wives. You can add you can add all of those things. Peter here talked about his hobbies. He said he loves to go to the swimming pool. He loves to go to the park to play with his friends. He also talked about his sister's hobby, that is playing basketball. This is how you develop a character. Now, can you compare this to Peter is a nice boy. He lives in his house with his mom and dad, and then you stop. Then you go to the middle of the story, and then you begin to say what happens. You cannot just do that here. Also, when you're using literary languages, also remember to use your adjectives. Don't leave out the adjectives. Like I told you before, when you add adjectives to a story, it's like you cooking a pot of soup. When you start adding ingredients, the soup tastes nicer and the volume of the soup increases. It won't stay in the same spot where it was. That is the same thing as using literary languages, also using metaphors, also building a character. Okay, so let's move on. Now, what activities can you do with this? You can get the children to invent or choose a character. You can give them prompts. I have here a shy lion. We know a lion is not shy. A talking dog, a sly fox, a brave boy. It can be anything you want them to do. You can choose for them, you can give them prompts, or you can get them to invent their own characters. Once they have invented their own, that means they have picked a character, and then they will write extensively on the character. Another thing can be role play. You can call a child outside, and then the children will be given all the characters that belong to the child. Role play is always very nice. It's very interesting. You can use role play, asking questions morally, or you can get them to write it down. If somebody gives us a character, you write it down. And by the time everybody has written something down, the story is so full and interesting and it comes alive. This is an activity you can use to teach character building. Now, let's go to descriptive sensory details. What is descriptive sensory details? Anytime you hear sensory, just know it has to do with the five senses. That is it. Sensory has to do with the organs, the senses, sight, smell, feeling, tasting, and all of that. So what is descriptive sensory details? Now, this is using words that helps the reader imagine what something looks like, tastes like, sound like, smells like, basically using your five sentences. Now, this is an example here. James wants to find a bag of gold hidden in the cave of monsters. However, he was scared of caves, as scared as a mouse. So he avoids caves. On his journey, Jim faces his fears, enters the cave. He learns, so when he did that, he faced his fears and then he entered into the cave. So this is just that he learned that it is okay to be afraid. Being brave does not mean that you cannot be afraid. That is a moral that you have learned from James' character. So it has described James as somebody who is scared. But he faces his fears. They didn't just say James is a boy that is afraid. No, that is flat. They described him as scared as a mouse. That is a simile. Okay, so you can go on and on like this. This is describing his sensory details. You can say he was trembling like a leaf. His hands were shaking. He was palpitating. His eyes were dilated. Just add on and on and on to whatever you are looking at. If it is a mean character, add on to it. If it is a nice character, add on to it as much as you can, so that it will build this descriptive sensory details. It's called details. Details means you need to put something in details. You know, I've come across two children. One schools here, another schools abroad. When I asked them a question, they answered me separately. The child that schools abroad told me about, I said, who was that man that left? Our child here said, he's one man that wore a blue shirt. Do you know that girl who studies abroad said, this man, the man had brown hair, he had brown eyes. I noticed he had a mark on his face. She told me how he walks. He was walking with a limp. She went on and on, gave me like 6 sentences. That is where we need to take our children to teach them to be able to detail characters, detail descriptions, detail whatever it is they are doing or writing about. Now, what are the techniques to teach advanced creative writing? For describing actions and feelings. That is what the sensory thing is about. It is your actions and your feelings. Again, you must have read stories or storybooks describing actions and feelings over and over. I know of a school. They have their creative writing. They have videos that you can watch. If they have Peter Rabbit, they will let you see the video of Peter Rabbit. So you can imagine how Peter Rabbit is. And then when you are writing that story, you can change it or do what your teacher asks you to do. Or you can change it because you are the one writing the story. Now, you will show, do not tell them. Teach them how to describe actions and feelings. I've told you again, Baba Gbero was trembling. He was sweating. He was panting. He was short of breath. Those are the things that you will teach the children. Don't just expect them to come and write something for you when you have not taught them anything. They must have come over stories like this over and over. And then they need to do their sketches. It needs a lot of time. You can write one story for 2 weeks. You can write one story for 3 weeks. It does not have to finish that way. You are teaching them skills, not wanting their what do you call it, their books to be full of stories. You don't know, you might be bringing up a Chimamanda Adichie or a Clara Wapa or a Wole Soyinka. You never know. So this creative writing takes time. But when the children get a hang of it, they will fly. You will enjoy reading their stories. I'm telling you from experience. Now, what activity can you do? You can give the children a telling sentence like James was afraid. Give them to rewrite it using sensory details. Simple. See what I wrote here. His body was trembling, he was sweating, and he was panting, short of breath. These are the things that the children can do. I don't know if you have any questions for me. Are there any questions? Any questions? Are there any questions? Can you hear me? Are there any questions for me?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can write it in the chat box and I'll see it and answer your questions. No questions? Miss Shewa?
No, no questions, but I
No
was
questions.
waiting. No questions, man. There are no questions.
Okay, I'll ask questions then. I'll ask questions. Last week, we talked about the similes and the metaphor and onomatopoeia and all those personification. So can anybody tell me what a simile is? Type it. Can anybody tell me what a simile is? Should I call names? I can see all your names, so I can see everybody's names. Should I call your names? Should I call your names or you will answer me? Should I call names? Okay, we have a question in the chat box. Let me see. Okay. It says simile. Oh, okay. They are words used in comparison. Thank you. Simile is a simile is comparison using as or like. Awesome. So give me an example of simile. Give me an example. Those ones are really interesting. Why I'm concentrating on those, because those are the things you use to detail your characters. You use to detail the sensories. Okay. So I want, so you have told me, give me examples of a simile. Can I have an example of a simile? Thank you, Helen. And Chinwike, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing. Okay. So someone does not understand detailed character development. Let me go back there. Somebody does not understand detailed character development. I'll go back to that. Now, what is detailed character development? You are developing a character. Simple. That is what it means. You are giving a character, you are making it feel real, unique, and you are giving clear traits. I'll go back to Babagbero. What did I tell you about Babagbero? I told you that Babagbero was a short man with a big tummy, with a bald head, and had a stocky shape. I didn't just say Babagbero is a man. Babagbero is a stocky man, stocky in shape. He had a bald head. He was he has a big tummy and he had a bald head. Then I told you about Iyagbero. Iyagbero was a beautiful woman, fair in complexion. She's light-skinned. She had brown eyes. She had brown eyes. She had long, thick hair. That is developing a character. I could have added Baba Gbero had a mean face. He was a very mean man. I can talk about the things I can see and the way they are. The way they are that I cannot see, but I can say are all part of character development. You are developing a character. Like I said, you cannot just say Jane is a nice girl or Jane is nice. No, Jane is nice. She's friendly and warm. She welcomes people to her home. She welcomes everybody around her. She's tall. She's slim. She has long black hair. She has brown eyes. She has a beautiful smile. She has a cheerful nature, and she's always willing to help. That is Jane's character that I have developed. Now, when I look here, we said you talk about the name, age, family, friends, if possible. See what Peter did. He told you about himself. He told you his age. He told you about his family. He lives with his mom and his dad. He told you that he had a dog. He told you about his hobbies. He told you about his sister's hobby. Okay? So we are going to, so that is development of character. Now, we'll likely go back to teach figures of speech. I sent it last week. So that's why I'm asking questions now about figures of speech to see if you understood what you did. And I can see answers here. Okay. Similarly, Helen says as brave as a lion. BC is Faith says BC is as dirty as a pig. Philomena says Obi is as dark as his father. Yes. Chukwunwike says he looks like a maker. Well, you must have to put as. Oh, okay. Bolani says as brave as a lion. Victoria says as easy as ABC, as silly as a sheep, as dark as charcoal, says Nzube. She's as tall as a tree, says Faith Ujunwa. So these are the things that you are going to use. As beautiful as a queen. Oh, good. You are inventing yours. As sweet as honey. Aha. So, yes. So, Onyinye is Francisca says, Ma, can we teach all the figures of speech before our assignments can be done? Okay, so I've not given you any assignment on figures of speech, but if you want me to reteach figures of speech, then we'll probably arrange a class for that. But that is not in my hands now. It depends on what we talk about. So if I'm given permission to teach figures of speech, I'll definitely do that because it is so interesting. And as I speak to you, I remember my literature teacher in secondary school. She made the lesson really come alive. I enjoyed reading all our literacy books. She made it even more interesting than the way it was, in the book back then. We read Tempest. She made it so interesting. You can imagine when we're reading Romeo and Juliet, oh my, it was fun. So I hope I've explained what character development is. I hope you understand. The person who asked that question, do you now understand? Oh, thank you. So you understand. That's good. So now you have given me a simile. So how about metaphors? What is a metaphor? What is a metaphor? Oh, great. So Victoria now understands what the character development is. Good. So just like character development is, that is the way sensory development is. sensory development is like that. So let me go back to it. Can I find it? Let me go back to sensory development. This one is using your senses. Can you see it? Using your senses. Sorry, I said gold. Jim was as scared as a mouse. He was panting. He was shaking. His hands were trembling. He was sweating like a, what do we say in Africa? Like a Christmas goat. Don't use that though. I was just saying. Thank you. Metaphor. Thank you, Philomena. Thank you. Metaphor is a figure of speech that compares things using like. Really? Is that what metaphor is? Any other person? I'm waiting for your chat. Is it only Philomena here? Neka Philomena. Yeah, you're correct. Anyway, I just wanted to try and confuse you. So metaphor is a figure of speech that is like, similarly we use as. Metaphor we use like. Her smile is like the sunshine. Her smile is like the sunshine. Metaphor compares things directly. Good. What else? I'm waiting for more answers. This is an interactive class. It's not a monologue. It's a class. She looks like her mom from Chimuke. I like you, Chimuke. You have been answering questions. That's good. Examples, more examples, please. I want to see if you understood the lesson we did last week. It was recorded. So I want to see if, yeah. Bolanle Grace says metaphor compares two things directly using the word like. She is like a lion. She's dirty like a pig. His words are like dagger to her heart. She has a heart like stone. All those things you use. He's drowning in paperwork. She's a dog. Those are metaphors. Those are metaphors. Any more examples? Keep them coming. You describe something. That is what a metaphor is. She's cunning like a tortoise, correct. She's Jezebel. I think, okay, time is money. Yes, that is a metaphor. That is a metaphor. More. I'm waiting. So Faith Ujunwa says figure of speech that compares two things unlike things by stating that one is another thing. Okay, you are implying that something is something when it is not. Do we have a heart of stone? No, the heart is fleshy. So you are comparing the heart to a stone. Uche is his father. That means Uche is like his father. The class was a zoo. That means the children are behaving like animals, but you don't want to say that, and you are saying that the class was like a zoo. She is a ray of sunshine, I think you want to write. That means she makes people happy, or she's okay, she's a shiny star. Thank you. So I believe that we understood those two. If her voice is a melody to my ears, that means she has a sweet voice. I'm happy that you understood those ones. So if I'm asked to teach the figures of speech again, I'll be told, and then we'll look into that. So we've talked about simile. How about a personification? What is personification? I don't know if you listened to the video. What is personification? I'm waiting. I can only see the same people who have been answering are the ones answering. I can see your names. I will call names. Should I call names? What is personification? Okay, somebody is here. So what is personification? That gives life, thank you, to a lifeless object. Yeah, it gives light to a lifeless object. So give me examples. Very correct, Philomena. Personification, says Cecilia, use object in place of person. Good. That's why it's called personification. Like what do you call it? When you impersonate, figure of speech in which human qualities, what? I can't see this. The wind whistles, correct. That is it. The wind whistles. The wind whispers in my ears. The trees were clapping their hands. Yes, I can give you justice is blind. More answers. Our time is going, more answers. I'm purposely asking these questions so that I will know if you understood the lesson that we did last week. Yep. Okay. The sun smiled down on me. The green leaves are waving. Okay. Somebody asked a question. I didn't on that. I thought I've explained that. Okay. Please, Ma. So I'll just give you an assignment on figure, on simile, personification, and metaphor. You get the assignment. I purposely went back to that and left descriptive sensory details and detailed character development. I would, I would love to teach the figures of speech. So I'll give you an assignment. It will be sent to you. I'd like to write it down so you will get that. Now, is that okay? Let me see. Yeah. Love is blind. Oh, says Amara. I love the candle is shedding tears. That means the candle is melting. Wow. These are lovely. Lovely, lovely answers. I am happy that you understood the subjects. The candle is shedding tears. Love is blind. The sun smiled down on me. Those are correct answers. The flowers danced in the breeze. Death shattered the heart from faith. Beatrice are dancing, Francisca. So you get assignments on simile, metaphor, and personification. I'll get that to you. Right, so more questions, okay. A talking drum, of course, that's a personification. A drum can't talk unless you hit it. Now, can you see how interesting these things are? Imagine if you use them in your story. It will be, you won't wait to turn the other page, or you will not, stop reading whatever your children write. But it's not easy, but you have to keep at it, for them to be able to do what you're supposed to do. Now, let us look at reflection. Let's look at reflection now. Now, how can I continue to encourage my pupils to build characters, not flat ones, when writing? How can I encourage my pupils to build characters, not flat ones, when writing? I would like an answer to that. And I'll also get the questions on similes and assignment on simile, metaphor, and personification. What can I do to make it interesting? I would like to have your answers. Please reflect on that. Reflect on it. Now, what is our task? Now, I want you to get the children to invent a character. You do this plus the other homework. They are to extensively describe the character. What tips can you use? The ones we used before: name, age, family, friends, appearance, their height, their hair, the color, hobbies, what they like, what they do not like, and they should draw and color the character. I've told you before, times and over, drawing is an assessment. When a child says somebody is short and fat and he draws somebody tall and slim, there's a problem with the child. He does not understand, or the child has a learning challenge. Drawing is a kind of assessment. I've told you. If a child is talking about apple and is drawing a car, there was a girl we told, she wrote something about a rainbow. I mean, she was asked to draw the rainbow. What she drew, I still can't get over that. It was totally, completely, utterly, any word I can use, out of, that was not, in fact, we didn't know what it was. It was not an animal, it was not a rainbow, it was nothing. So we had to call the mother in and tell her. So drawing is not just drawing and coloring. She cannot say, a child cannot say she has brown hair and then she will use orange. No, in advanced creative writing or in any form of writing, if you say something is green, the leaves are green, you must color it green. You must color it green. So please, they should always draw and color. It is a type of assessment. I'll see you in the next class. Have a nice day and take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, Ma. Bye.
Bye, man.
Bye.